All right, you guys wanted a 1-year review of our Stabicraft 2750 Ultra Center Cab and how it performs in Florida. Well, let me tell you, after over 400 hours in a year, we've got some things for you. We'll cover the good, the bad, and the ugly. Speaking of ugly, you'll notice that the rubber stripping's missing off of there. That's on both sides. Florida heat, the little tape that they use at the factory to put on the rubber stripping, didn't hold.
At all.
All right, so one of the things that we did, we modded 2 things on the front of this trailer. So first of all, you're gonna see this ugly yellow cord. That's because the shackle that came with the boat was pretty thin. So we got a big old shackle here. The problem is that when you're underway, this thing clangs. And so we tie it down when we're underway and it just keeps it nice and in place. No noise, it's beautiful. The second thing we did, which is really cool, is this boat catch. We had to slide the bracket forward to accommodate it. Now it's a little bit weird because boat catch wants you to have like 4 inches between here and the base of where we welded it, but the problem is the way the boat's shaped. You just don't have 4 inches. And so what we noticed is that before we would put the boat in the water and we could float it off the trailer. Well, when you do that with the boat catch, as that boat floats into the water, this comes down and it would potentially hit this. So we had to change some things up on how we deployed the boat. It's a drive on, drive off trailer. So now what we do is we just don't put the trailer in as far, and it keeps the boat resting on the bunks longer, so that as I back off the trailer slowly, this whole piece here clears the boat catch and it's nice and easy. Now for deploying, Megan normally just hooks up a little rope. She gives me the "are you ready?" I give her a thumbs up and I back in. It's the retriever this thing really comes in handy. What's really nice about this is coming up on the trailer, you know, you drive it up and you center it on the trailer and you just give it a little power, boat catch locks in, and if for some reason you had to clear the dock or whatever, there was an emergency, you could pull out at that point. But the other piece that's nice is we don't have to worry about it slipping while Megan comes and puts all the security mechanisms in place. So this just works for our particular trailer. If you guys have a different trailer, your setup may be a little bit different. But just keep in mind that this works. I feel very safe with it. And I've also noticed that when you're driving on the road, everything is nice and cinched down. The other piece, and I know I'm going to get criticism for it, is normally you go over this bar with the strap. In this case, we can't because of where everything's situated. So the boat catch locks it in place, and then we pull the boat down using the winch, and it keeps it nice and rested on the trailer. This thing is not going anywhere. So.
And if you're in the United States, we did find a dealer. Where was he based out of? Texas?
Yeah, if you're in the U.S., there's a dealer based out in Texas
that sells the boat catch. And
then the gentleman who welded this on knew what he was doing, and you know, we helped him put it on. It was great. It took like a couple hours, and yeah,
it's been worth its weight in gold.
I haven't looked back since. Yeah, I feel a lot safer putting the boat in and taking it out. All right, so another modification that we did is we took the dive ladder to a local welder, and we had them put on a 3rd step. So I'm gonna lift this up so you guys can see it here. This step right here was welded on, and here's why. Megan's got a bad back, and when we were diving, we found
I had a hard time getting my leg up onto the factory standard ladder.
Right, because it doesn't sit that far below the water line. So by having this here underwater, it's very nice, right? You just step up and you can go. I'm over 200 pounds, and with all my scuba gear on, weights included, I can step on this, come right on up, and it's great. I will tell you, the only downside is because ours doesn't collapse into the base. When we're fishing, sometimes the reels sit right above this. You just got to be a little bit more cognizant of how you're fishing. All right, so over the 400 hours that we've put this boat to the test over the past year, we have pulled crab traps, we've been snorkeling, we've been scuba diving, and we've done a ton of fishing. All right, so let's start off with the bad. Number 1, when we first got the boat here in Florida, the trim limiter screw fell out, and that broke my heart. When the trim limiter screw fell out, this cowling didn't have any way to stop when I was bringing it up. and it hit and it cracked. That was the first thing that went wrong, but that was easily fixed and under warranty. All right, so one of the things that I think Stabicraft could have done a little bit better is this drawer. When we got the boat, see how stuck that was? When we got the boat, we had little holes drilled right here in the front. Okay, and then what that does is that when the boat is bow down, right, and it's angled forward, that water should drain out right here into these little holes. That would actually allow it to come out and not get in to where the batteries are. Well, it does a pretty good job. This rust color that you see here is actually anti-corrosion that we sprayed in there. But here's the problem.
They don't work.
They don't work when the bow is up. So we get a lot of rain in Florida. What happens? Water accumulates, and the rain will actually in Florida come in sideways a lot of time, and the water gets in here and then it gets trapped. And so if you have any metal utilities in there, they will rust. And I think what Staby should have done is put little drains out the back like they've done here on the bait station. So there you have it. All right, so we like to fish, we like to pull crab traps. Well, guess what? Paint doesn't like crab traps. Got it.
Or weights, or anything. This has been blistering since we got the boat, around these rod holders and a little bit up front as well.
Yeah, so the paint comes off really easy, which is not so good, and we found out we can't get replacement paint, so I'll have to match the color and figure that piece out. While we're talking about this section, these rod holders are shallow. They're really shallow. In fact, they're so shallow that I don't even like to put rods in the rod holder. We typically use the deeper rocket launchers, and it is what it is. I'm actually thinking about getting some of the 360 rod holders. That way we can fish out and do some side trolling with our new rods. But yeah, these got to go. This space out here is nice and big. It's got water in it because last night we had water in our kill bag that we keep in here to keep an ice slurry. You can't actually just put ice in the hold with a 1-inch closed foam cell mat in here like you can in the Pacific Northwest, because the water's too warm and
it melts.
It melts. It just the aluminum just makes everything the same temperature, so it melts too quickly. So to overcome that, we put a mat in here, and then I take this kill bag right here and I shove it in there, and that seems to do the trick. But yeah, if you guys are going to be in warm climates and you want this to hold ice,
it's not going to. So come up with a solution. The kill bag works really nice. This one is almost a hair too big, but yeah, if you guys want the specs on this one because you're planning on getting this boat, let me know and I'll put it in the description down below. In line with the issue with the floor not holding ice very well, we picked up a second kill bag and we actually use this as our bait bag. Check this out. This is the kayak version. It sits right here when we're fishing and it's fantastic. It's very accessible, keeps everything out of the way. But you know, when it's sitting on the deck, how do you keep everything cold? Well, we use frozen water bottles, 1 gallon at a time, filled with a whole bunch of salt water. That salt water freezes the temperatures even colder than normal water, and because we use a deep freezer, it's well below 32 degrees. We used that last night, and we bought some extra ice. Everything was still frozen this morning just because of those blocks of ice. So if you're going to be using kill bags, highly recommend you start freezing water bottles, and instead of buying ice all the time, you just reuse them, rinse them off, good to go. Our deep freezer was like $100 on Craigslist, and it's been worth every penny. Yeah, absolutely. So in Florida, we do have rain that comes in sideways, and that's fine normally, but look at this. This little piece of window here, water gets in here, believe it or not. It comes in and we'll end up with water inside the cab. So I've actually purchased some additional weatherproofing here that I'm going to put on there. But after big rainstorms, when we first got the boat, we were noticing water inside the cab. And we're not talking a little bit of water, we're talking gallons. Yeah, but you know, it's part of boat ownership. You find things like this, but I would just say, you know, Stabicraft, just double check the Weatherstrip in here and make sure everything's sealed up. But you know, if that's one of the complaints I have, I'm not too worried about it. All right, so now that we're up on the bow, let's talk about 2 other things that kind of concern me, but kind of don't. So let's start with the anchor. This Maxwell winch draws a ton of power. And so you've got to keep the engines running when you're using it or you'll get low voltage. Fortunately, you know, Y-Marine installed the switch on the back so I can equalize my batteries in the back, so I can actually use the house battery plus the 2 engine batteries if I was in a pinch.
Which we have had to use.
We have, yeah. But the other thing you can do is just put the engines in, take them out of gear and give it a little juice to keep the batteries going. But this will eat up a lot of power. All right, so speaking of power and issues, let's talk about this Minkota.
Biggest waste of money on the planet.
Yeah, Megan hates it. Now, I tell you, we've had it in the shop almost about as much as we've been able to use it.
It's been in the shop more than we've been able to use it.
Yeah, the last time I was on the phone with them, it took a while, but they finally sent me all the pieces, and I actually reinstalled the main board and the head unit, and I rewired everything, and I made sure that everything was heat shrink wrapped really well to prevent any water from getting in there.
And dielectric greased.
And dielectric grease. So check this out. My buddy and I are diving 50 feet down, no issues. Well, we surface, the 4 of us that were on the boat go out to 100 feet. We're gonna be doing the night bite.
Which in the Gulf of Mexico is like an hour-and-a-half ride to get out that far.
Yeah, so we're like...
From 50 feet. And that's, you know, going out to 100 feet takes about 2 hours from shore out here.
Yeah, so we're like 40 to 50 miles offshore, hoping this is gonna hold, and guess what? The motor stops working, and I don't mean the propeller. I'm talking about the unit that spins it. So to appease Minkota, I've got 3 batteries that normally sit in the boat in the back of my truck. I'm going to take them over to get load tested, even though I've already load tested them
repeatedly.
And if that doesn't work, I got to figure out something else. So if you guys have had any similar issues or can make any recommendations, please shoot us some comments, because this is ridiculous.
We're extremely frustrated with the amount of gas we have burned only to get out to a spot and have it not work.
Yeah, over $3,000 in gas easy over the course of the past year. So yeah, if you guys are going to be relying on a Minkota, don't. Make sure you learn how to anchor, and make sure you get make sure you get marker buoys that you can back up and anchor on. And we've actually gotten really good at doing that with this drum winch. So hindsight, if I could have spent $4,000 on this or on some kind of other trim tab system, I think I would have gone with the trim tab system. Just my 2 cents. And the last thing before I get off my Minkota soapbox is this is mounted on the outside of the boat. What we found is it makes it extremely difficult to dock on the port side when you've got large pilings. So typically when I dock now, I will always aim for starboard, and in really busy boat ramps, sometimes that becomes a problem. But yeah, it is what it is. Overall though, when this thing works, it's awesome. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work. Yeah, let's start talking about something good.
Yeah, the Minkota's killing me.
Yeah. All right, let's focus on the good. And we're gonna start by talking about what's good when we're off the water. So first and foremost, service. We have had issues with this boat, and Y-Marine has come to the rescue every single time. So between Buzz out there, Mike Carr, and Paul George, we've had a really great experience with Y-Marine, even though they're in Oregon and we're in Florida. So guys, thank you to you and your team for all the support. I think we'd be lost without you. Second, towing. This boat is so light. The F-250 diesel tows it, and I tell you what, you don't even know it's back there. And it tows really, really nicely. So that's a real big plus. Third, how do you clean the boat? Well, we got a pressure washer right here, and I'll show you that in a sec. But let me tell you, being able to pressure wash a boat
and not have to worry about gel coat chipping or any of that
is great. So yeah, that's fantastic. And then the fourth thing, despite how much the Minkota has given us problems, I will tell you that their service department will answer the phone every single time. And they will try to help you to the best of their ability. So again, support off the water is important, and I got to at least give the Minkota team a shout out for the support they've given us despite the product being such a pain in the butt. All right, so let's talk about how this boat handles. This boat handles really well when people are not moving around when you're underway. Balancing this boat, because it is light and it sits high on the water, if people are moving, it will go side to side, and that's where the trim tabs come in handy. But I'll tell you what, when everybody's parked and you got it trimmed out and level, this boat handles like nobody's business. It's incredible. The fuel economy on this boat at cruising, 2.6 to 2.8 miles per gallon on a nice flat day. We've also been in some really crappy conditions, 6-foot seas, and this thing, you feel safe. I mean, it's built like a tank. So,
in fact, people at the boat ramp typically on any given week will call it a tank.
yeah.
It gets a lot of looks.
All right, so some of the other great things about this boat are temperature control. Sitting on a trailer right now, it is blistering hot in here. But when you're on the water, and the water's 78 degrees or 80 degrees even here in Florida, it acts as a huge heat sink, and it's really nice in here. Further, if it gets too hot and you're doing a little trolling, you just pop open that hatch and it acts like a big old fan, and it just blows everything through. Normally we keep the hatch open and the windows open.
So one of the nice things that I love is this cabin. Everyone thinks it's going to be, you know, blistering hot or whatever during the summer. And it actually wasn't bad. We opened the windows, we opened the hatches, and it was like a giant fan. It was perfect. The other thing is the Gulf of Mexico is known for huge thunderstorms that randomly just pop up. And you'll see all the boats that are offshore just jetting in. And we're sitting here in a cabin, nice and dry, nice and warm. And we'll show you some of the footage that we took. We went out probably 60 miles, had a thunderstorm pop up, and we ended up leading a train of like 5 boats from offshore back in because we were the only ones with radar, the only ones with a cabin. Nobody could see because it was raining so hard and the fog was so dense. But it's really not that hot during the summer, and during the winter, this past winter, it has been amazing. Like many times everyone's like, it's too cold to go on the water, and here we are, like the only boat out there between the bad seas and the cold weather, and we're perfectly fine. We're like the only ones out there fishing a lot of times during the winter.
All right, so after a year of using our 16-inch Simrad, this is the NSS Evo 3S. It's the 16-inch. This thing is awesome. When it's raining, when it's foggy, at night, you hook it up to the radar and everything just lights up on the screen and you feel safe. You can see everything. Minus the crab traps that don't show up. I mean, you can really stay out there a lot longer than everybody else, which is great because the boat ramps get so busy. So we typically try to come in after everybody gets out of the water. And so we use the radar all the time. Over here, I've got this phone charger, and it seems like, you know, why would I be talking about a phone charger? Well, this fast charger stays plugged in all the time. And sometimes you will take a little bit of sea water through the window if you're in big stuff. And instead of letting it corrode the ends by, you know, if they get wet and you put them in, pull them out, I leave this plugged in all the time. Put my phone right up here. It'll stay charged all day. It's great. All right, now as we're sitting here talking about what's good, these captain's chairs are really nice. Once you get them balanced out with the right air pressure in them and you keep them tight, I love these bolster seats. I don't actually sit in them the way you're supposed to because I find that I'm too low. Instead, I typically sit up on the bolster itself and I can see up and out of the cabin, which is great. Now, this cabin is sweet. You've got a queen size bed down in there.
Well, just about a queen size.
Right? You add the little piece here, this piece comes down. You got about a queen size bed in here. We also add a 110 inverter if we need to have a fan. So we can sleep, you know, a couple people here, put an air mattress out on the back deck. Space is awesome. However, when you look around the cabin, what don't you see? Where are the cup holders? Outside, we've got great cup holders. In fact, they're so great, they've got little trays where you can put your weight and your bait while you're underway, so they're not sitting there banging against the boat. But in here, well, there's really no place to put your drinks. I typically put my drink back here in this little hole. In fact, there's a monster right here.
You can get the ones that clamp onto the rails, which is what we've done, but...
Yeah, it would have been nice to have some built-in ones, but yeah, that's besides the point. So overall, the last thing that we've done in here, down here, we've put some skateboard tape, anti-slip, because this piece right here gets really slippery, this smooth aluminum. So this is this is 1 inch closed cell foam, and this is skateboard tape, and it just makes for so much better. All right, so it's hot in here. Yeah. We're on the back deck, and we know that this thing can hold a king size mattress. But what we typically do is we'll have 2 beanbag chairs, and then I'll bring an air mattress that's inflatable, and I'll just use the little inverter, and we can sleep out on the back deck. It is so nice. In fact, we've had dolphins swimming so close that the spray from their spouts was hitting us. The other really nice thing about the back of this boat is this live well. It holds fish and does a really, really, really good job. In addition, we have these tuna tubes. So when we catch some bigger bait fish that we need to keep alive, or we've already hooked them through the nose and we want to keep them alive, we will put those in the tuna tubes versus putting them back in the live well. Let's talk about a couple more things and we're going to wrap up this video. So the rocket launchers up here are amazing. They're deep, they hold a lot, and they keep everything nice and out of the way. They're a little bit high for shorter people, but
like me.
But you know, not too bad to get out if you can reach them. Now, because saltwater on an aluminum boat, does tend to you know, rust a lot of things that are not aluminum. It's not hurting the aluminum, but it does stain it. And so what we did is we bought this sea sucker, this little product here, and when you see the orange, it just means you have to pump it a little bit more. But you would get this wet. We typically stick it here. No, see, it's not even wet and it's working. And then you just pump it on, and that thing is awesome. We keep all of our tools there while we're underway, and it just makes everything accessible so that when you've got 6 people running around trying to get their baits on and off and cut and tie stuff, it's right there. Yep, I gotta wait for it to release because it's so strong. The other thing, if you'd like to dive, while a little pricey, this thing is worth its weight in gold. It's got 2 sea sucker suction cups on it. It holds 4 tanks.
And 2 spear guns.
And 2 spear guns right there and right there. Now, where do I put this? Well, when it's just a couple of us on board, I'll actually just put it right here on the side, which is really nice. When you've got a lot of people on board, space does become a commodity, so I'll actually put it up against the side.
Thank you all for watching this video. You know, Megan and I flew out to the Oregon Boat Show and we had stepped on the Stabicraft, but we'd never ridden on one. The Stabicraft community online was so supportive, and the $1 million question is if we could go back and do it all over again, would we do anything different? No, absolutely not. We love this boat. So we are so excited. We've got some really, really, really cool adventures planned for this year. We're going to be making videos. We've got a whole lineup already scheduled. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Guys, we're going to try to grow this channel, so please subscribe if you haven't done it already. But the most important thing is dinner is waiting. Go and get it. We'll see you next time on Fish Forage Hunt.
At the beginning we said the rubber fell off both sides of the boat. Well, check this out. Thank you, Y Marina.